Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So yesterday we talked about the somewhat unprecedented fact that a pro-gun politician, namely the president of these United States of America and leader of the free world, Donald J. Trump, wanted to cut down on the options of people that like to shoot guns. This is a different kind of move. He said that he had drafted a memo instructing the Attorney General to come up with some legal paperwork that made bump stocks a thing of the past. Bump stocks being these things that allow rifles to mimic semi-automatic weapons. Now, I know there's going to be gun people that want to correct me on the nature of bump stocks and things of that. This is not the point, and I really, really would like to know more about a bump stock and how it works because, as you can probably tell, I don't know a whole lot about it. But that's not the point. The point is a pro-gun politician on the right, namely Donald J. Trump, said he wants to give people that shoot guns less options, less of a means to distribute bullets in a rapid fashion. He wants to take away some toys, as it were. Now, I'm having a hard time coming up with too many other right-wing politicians, pro-gun right-wing politicians especially, that have said, yeah, I like to shoot guns. I think people should shoot guns. We have a right to shoot guns, but I'm going to take some of those rights away, and I'm going to limit some of those rights, and I'm going to take some of your toys away, for want of a better expression. I'm not trying to cheapen it, but let's be real here. Take some of your toys away. Now, who should follow suit not a day later than Marco Rubio? What's the deal with what's going on with Marco Rubio, Travis?
Well, it's actually very funny. He wants a federal task force of experts to examine the epidemic of mass shootings.
Now,
yeah.
I think I know why you are chortling at that, and it's certainly not because this situation is without gravity. I think you're laughing, and correct me if I'm wrong, at the fact that a federal task force of experts, doesn't matter what it involves, federal task force of experts, in and of itself, the comedy in that phrase alone is high. That's what draws the chortle. Am I correct?
That's exactly why I'm chortling.
Yeah, it's chortle-worthy. Task force of experts. Oh, federal task force of experts. And he's also said, look, he seemed to be aware of the comedy of the phrase federal task force of experts as it was coming out of his mouth, because he said he wasn't sure who would sit on the task force or not. And he also said people roll their eyes at a task force.
Yeah. That's like me saying, you know what? I want to have a federal task force of experts to cure cancer. Oh, really? Well, who's going to do it? Well, I don't know. I have no clue. but I want to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. We got to do something about this cancer stuff. What about a federal task force of experts? That sounds like a thing. Will that cost tax dollars? Lots and lots of tax dollars. Well, let's proceed and figure it out as we spend lots of money.
Exactly.
And by the way, understand that I am for anybody doing anything to cut down on gun violence. I truly am. And we're not mocking an effort to do something about gun violence in any way, shape, or form. We are saying, oh man, this sounds like a really good way to not do something about gun violence. To me, anyway. Florida Governor Rick Scott is also talking about a task force. His would focus on school gun violence. See, I like that. That it has a focus at all. You know what I mean? Here is the difference in my mind between things that happen and things that don't happen.
Exactly.
Martin Luther King. I have a dream. That one day, white boys and black girls, excuse me if I'm quoting this wrong, but I have a dream that white boys and black girls will play together, hold hands together. Martin Luther King had a dream. He had a dream that was detailed, fleshed out. You could see it in your mind's eye, in color. There's absolutely no question as to what Martin Luther King's dream was. And when you figure that out, it makes it easier to attain. That is entirely different than hope and change. Was that the Obama thing? Was it hope and change?
That was somebody's thing, that's for sure.
I think it was the Obama thing, and hope and change sound great, but what does that actually look like? We don't know. And this is why I like Rick Scott talking about a task force that would focus on school gun violence, because it has some detail, it has some definition, it has a direction that it's going in, and therefore I think stands that much more of a chance of actually achieving something, as opposed to the nebulous quality that Federal Task Force of Experts has. He's announced that he's going to host a series of hearings with education, mental health, and law enforcement officials to find solutions. These are good steps. I like these steps. These are strong steps.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So you and I have talked about this a little bit, but I always sort of wonder in the back of my mind, what if Marco Rubio in the debates hadn't been branded Little Marco by Donald Trump when he attempted to beat him at his own game and talk about the size of his hands. And here's the thing about Marco Rubio, and maybe you live in Florida, maybe you've had direct experience with him, and maybe you find him to be a complete hypocrite. Maybe you'll think I'm completely wrong about him, but as someone who hasn't had direct experience with him, I find him to be, in general, someone who comes across as caring about people, which is why when he says this sort of thing, I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt. Feel free to correct me if you feel like he is the worst scum of the earth, because my experience is based on going, that guy seems nice, as opposed to that guy doesn't seem like he cares. But that's why I'm, as much as we were saying the phrase Federal Task Force of Experts sounds like a whole lot of wasted money, this is why I'm kind of willing to go with him on this one. And it's an interesting one to be sure, because like we said, almost no right-wing politician, no pro-gun right-wing politician has said they'd be into limiting anything when it comes to do with guns people can shoot, how they can shoot them, what types of guns people can shoot, and all the above. But Rubio said he wants a federal task force of experts to examine the epidemic of mass shootings. He has indicated a willingness to expand background checks, consider a gun violence restraining order to remove weapons from those accused of domestic violence, examine the banning of so-called bump fire. That's jumping on the Donald Trump bandwagon there, because Donald Trump said, okay, let's get rid of bump stocks. Bump stocks were used in Vegas. That seems like a good place to start. He's talking about banning bump fire conversion kits and improving violence prevention programs. And he did say something I liked how he put this, actually. He said, if you're going to talk about gun violence, you're going to have to focus on the gun part, but you also have to focus on the violence part. What is the catalyst causing people to do this? And that is the big question. That is the $1 million question. And we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show. And we're again, this is something I'll feel more comfortable talking about when we've got a little bit more distance from what happened in Florida. But the idea that you have to examine examine the fact that years and years ago, when there was no gun control, this sort of thing was an extraordinarily isolated event. And now we've got gun control, and it's not in any way, shape, or form slowing this sort of thing down. It seems like there's an accelerated rate. Do I think increased gun control leads to more of this sort of thing? No, I don't think the two things are related in any way, shape, or form. Suffice to say that the gun control has not controlled and contained these situations. And in the short term, yes, examining all these things is important, and any steps must absolutely be taken. But you're kind of putting Band-Aids on something that runs much deeper when you don't examine exactly why this sort of thing happens. So, like I said, Federal Task Force of Experts to examine the epidemic of mass shootings. It sounds so vague and so nebulous. And even Rubio said that people roll their eyes at the idea of a task force. and he's not sure who would sit on the task force when he said, a bunch of experts. He doesn't know who the experts are. He doesn't. How do you qualify an experts for a federal task force? You spend a lot of money and you guess. I think that's probably what happens, right, Travis? Like, we need to assemble a federal task force of experts. What do we do? I don't know, but here's a check. Let's go find some experts and talk to him. Does he seem like an expert to you? Seems kind of like an expert to me. Okay, I think that's kind of how. And let's remove the mass shooting element from this. Anytime you talk about a federal task force of experts, that's kind of how I think they get assembled. I'm pretty sure that it's not necessarily the most organized situation, and especially if you want an expert in cancer surgery, well, that's something that is well established. If you want an expert in auto mechanics, that's something that it's easy to find that sort of thing. But this epidemic of mass shooting is something that has been a development that's happened in our lifetime. We talked about the fact yesterday that when Pearl Jam wrote the song Jeremy about a mass shooting, it was such an isolated event. Everybody was able to go, oh, it's about that thing that happened. We know exactly what that's all about. And now if a band wrote a similar song, take your pick. It could be of anything. So we've seen something that usually these things escalate over the period of 100 years, 50 years, whatever. But this has all happened in our lifetime. This has been something that has come about and become the quote unquote epidemic that it's become since we were middle school. So, man, I feel like it's wasted money. I feel like it's cluelessly charging ahead into nobody really knows what. But I also feel like Marco Rubio, and like I said, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I feel like Marco Rubio does care to some extent. And for that reason, as much as I giggle at the idea of a federally appointed task force of experts, as long as someone's making some moves, I'm happy. But that conspiracy theory that I floated yesterday, Travis, when the right starts grabbing guns, when the right starts taking away rights to shoot guns, I think for the first time you're going to hear dissent from the left going, hold on a moment, you can't take it, come and take it. I need this to feel safe in Trump's America. I think we're about to hear a bit of a radical shift in how gun ownership is perceived in the good old US of A. And you know what? Couldn't happen at a worse time. Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day, and we're part of the battle, just bow down, better act what you know.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So it's interesting. I don't know if you caught Chris Rock talking about taking his daughter to freshman orientation. Have you heard this, Travis?
No.
Well, there's a sobering dose of realism and reality and managing your children's expectations that go with this bit. And, well, let me just play it for you.
Now, my oldest daughter just started high school. Yep, kept her off the pole. And, kept her off the pole, you know. She just started high school, and I had to take her to a freshman orientation. You ever go to freshman orientation? It's the most boring thing you will ever do with your kids. You know, because you sit in an auditorium, people come up, you can speak and just lie to children. That's all that happens all day is people come up and lie to children about the future. And I'm sitting there and this lady comes up and goes, I want you children to know you can be absolutely anything you want to be. I'm like, lady, why are you lying to these children? Maybe 4 of them could be anything they want to be. But the other 2,000 better learn how to weld. I'm looking at these kids right now. I count at least 60 Uber drivers. Tell the kids the truth. Say, hey kids, check this out. You could be anything you're good at as long as they're hiring. And even then it helps to know somebody.
And you know, it rang true in an unpleasant way for me because I'm the type of person that likes to, I'm the type of person that likes to believe in the infinite possibility that lies within all of us. And you know what? I mean, I kind of did some impossible stuff when I was a kid, and it always gave me a certain amount of optimism when it came to the rest of life. You know, like I walked into a record deal while I was still a child, and I got to go around the world and be in a punk rock band and all this sort of stuff. And it was stuff that I wanted to do, and I set my mind to it, and I wanted it, I believed it, I became it, and I kind of thought that, you know, maybe if I applied that to the other areas of my life, they would all fall into line as well. It did not all fall into line. I had beginner's luck in that respect. But I still like to believe that, you know what, you want to do something, you can. You really can, and you just have to be willing to put in the work, and you have to be willing to... It takes belief and work, is something that I subscribe to. But coming up on that age where there's not too many professional athletes left that are older than me. You know what I mean? Like there's a couple of really out of shape pitchers that still have careers. Like my dream of being a starting pitcher for the New York Mets is seeming, well, I'm tinging that with realism every single time I address it in my mind.
All joking aside, do you even know how to play baseball?
Yeah, I played baseball when I was a kid. I was a pitcher.
Did you play in school?
Yeah, I was actually pretty good.
Oh, wow.
You see, my dad traveled a lot for work. He was away a lot of the time, but my father was a pitcher on his high school team. And that was how we bonded. He would come home from wherever the hell he was, and we would play catch, and I loved it. And we would talk, and we would have fun. And as it turns out, I had a little bit of an arm, and I had that growth spurt early. So I was a little taller, a little stronger, a little faster than most of the kids my age. And so I could throw a ball harder. And this is part of, we were talking about this a little bit off the air. What's that guy? The Malcolm Gladwell dude? What is it? The 10,000 hours to master something?
Yes.
Big part of what he says is that there's a reason why kids that play hockey in Canada were all born in certain months. And I can't remember exactly how it goes, but they're saying, they've got greater aptitude for this sport. Well, no, they were born in this month. And, when you're 5 and they start having you play hockey at age 5 and you're almost 6 and you're going up against kids who are 5, if you're 11 months older than them, you're going to be a little bit bigger. You're going to be exponentially stronger, and you're going to get more playing time. You're going to wind up on the ice more. You're going to get an opportunity to develop your skills, and you're going to get promoted to another league, which is going to, again, up your skills. And he was like, it's phenomenal. If you look at the number of kids that were born in a certain month that play hockey professionally, it's outrageous. Does that make sense? Am I making, does that sound like a thing, Travis?
Yeah. I mean, it totally does. Yeah, of course.
So I guess I was a little bit, bigger, stronger. Like I had a growth spurt early, so I was not bad at baseball. And I don't have too many regrets in life. But so bear in mind, this sounds impressive. It's not. I was told I would make the varsity team freshman year, and I could skip junior varsity because I was at a very small school. So let's be real here. So, but I was a little taller, a little faster, a little bigger, and I threw harder. And I got to my first day of freshman gym class in high school, and I didn't have my PE stuff. I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to the schedule when they mailed it to the house. I don't know. And the PE teacher chewed me the hell out, like just laid into me like you wouldn't believe. Yeah. And as it turned out, the PE teacher was also the baseball coach. So I was like, well, guess I'm not playing baseball. That guy's a jerk. And as it turns out, years later, comes to pass, he's a pretty nice guy. He was just, strict in that way coaches tend to be strict. But I opted not to play baseball because of 1 minute and a half bad experience I had with this dude. And I talked to my dad about this not so long ago. He's like, you realize that's the absolute wrong reason to quit something. I was like, thanks, Dad. Where were you 20 years ago when I was having these thoughts and anyways, it all worked out.
Now, allow me the stupidest question ever. And I hate to sound so stupid to ask this. Dude, you went to school in England. They had baseball in England?
I went to an American school in England, yeah, which is part of the reason why I stood out. It was pretty small number of kids playing baseball. I like how you, in your mind, don't believe that there's any way, shape, or form that I could be good at baseball. You're like, really? Do you even know how to play? Oh, it's because it was in England where everybody sucks. Now it makes sense. Now, yeah, I understand, because, you're clearly not athletic. All right, okay, yeah. Do you even lift, bro? Do you even lift, bro?
I was just trying to put all this together, and I'm like, when you started talking about baseball, like, I'm thinking in my head, hang on, he grew up in England. I'm like, maybe like he grew up watching baseball and he was like, oh, baseball's awesome, and like George Costanza, he always thought that he could be a color man, although he didn't actually play baseball. So I thought maybe
I could be a sportscaster. Well, they tend to give those to people who are broadcasters or former football players. Well, that's just not fair.
Exactly. So I'm like, hang on, England, pretty sure they don't have baseball. I thought, no, I think they probably have cricket, whatever that is. It's kind of like
I did
baseball.
play a little bit of cricket, and I tell you, man, I didn't understand how to play cricket even a little bit, but I was good at it. I could hit the ball far, and you run back and forth between the wickets, and I was like, I got to know what I'm doing. I had no idea what I'm doing. They're like, keep hitting and running. I was like, okay,
yeah,
that sounds like a thing. Did we win? Also, like, cricket scores are so incredibly high because one run, it's like it takes no time whatsoever to get a run in because you're just running back and forth between two posts. So I played baseball there, there you have it. And I'll tell you one thing, Travis. There was a few years ago, I was working for one of my stations in San Diego, Rock 105.3, San Diego's rock station, and we were doing a thing with the All-Star game, which was in town. So I got to host all this stuff, and I'm happier than you could ever believe because Terry Collins from the New York Mets, general manager, is general manager of the team. Noah Syndergaard is, one of the pitchers, and I'm just stoked, beyond stoked to be there. And then they had this thing, I can't remember, it was called like the Fan Fest or something, but what they had was these pitching cages, right?
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I never really had my fastball speed gunned when I was a kid. Like, I'd never, really known how fast I could throw. And I was like, I wonder if I could still bring the heat. And so I was like, let me try out. And anyway, so I'm in a line of people who want to see how fast they can throw that consists mostly of 12-year-olds. Like, I'm definitely one of the few grown-ups in that line. And there's these kids, like these 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids firing fastballs in at like 40, 50 miles an hour, like pretty fast for, these half-pint little dudes. And so I'm it comes to be my turn, and I don't want to act like I'm all serious and go into a real wind-up and throw it like I mean it, for fear that, I get bested by a 12-year-old kid that was in front of me. Yeah. So I just kind of like pull back my arm and throw as hard as I can. No, trying to look like I wasn't trying at all while I was trying the hardest I possibly could. And I got to tell you, I was the only person to break 70 miles an hour.
Really?
And this included the other adults that I saw. Yeah.
And you weren't even trying.
And here's the thing, though. I was like, hot diggity. Or to quote Tim Robbins in Bull Durham, that was a humdinger.
Oh, my God.
I was like, damn, I broke 70. That was pretty cool. And, the girl in the... the girl in the referee's uniform was like, wow, you're the only person to break 70. And I was like, I'm the only person to break 70. So like, there I am feeling all good about myself, being like, well, if I can do 70 without even trying, I'm taking a wind up.
Oh no, you didn't leave them wanting more.
Well, I think you got 3 or 4 pitches, so I'm like, let me see how I can do it. Like, I did a wind up and, kind of hucked it in there. 68. Lost like 4 miles an hour off of it, and then keep getting throwing harder and harder and getting incrementally slower. And I think by the 5th pitch, I was down to like 50 miles an hour. Oh. In the space of 5 pitches, I lost 25 miles an hour off of my fastball.
That
so
sucks.
Like, it does suck, and it just gave me this incredible amount of respect for major league pitchers. Like, you go out there and you're throwing at anywhere between 90 and 100 miles an hour for an obscene number of pitches. 70 pitches. It's insane. Anyways, I've come to realize I will not be the starting pitcher for the New York Mets, but I could, as it turns out, I could be an Olympic skier. And we know this because an American skier named Elizabeth Swaney competed in the Olympics by totally gaming the system. She's not a world-class skier. She's not even good by regular standards, but she made it in by competing in a sport where there aren't enough competitors to fill out the field. She's American. But she competed for Hungary because her grandparents, I guess, were Hungarian, and therefore that made her eligible. She also had to finish in the top 30 in a handful of World Cup events, and she did that by signing up for obscure events that were put on at times when the world's best skiers were competing in other places. So check out and I love the commentator trying to take it seriously when she's doing her half pipe run, bearing in mind she's doing literally nothing.
Elizabeth Swaney from Hungary, out of Oakland, California now, 34th in the World Cup, the 13th in the half-pipe at Secret Garden earlier in the year. What can she deliver on here in Pyeongchang?
Liz Swaney dropping in, trying to get into this right wall for a nice, just getting up to the top of the wall, going for these grabs, the safety grab you'll see there, and then opting for another just...
I mean, the beautiful part, you have to understand, she's doing literally nothing
make it down this half-pipe clean.
She's snow plowing through the whole thing.
Down at the bottom, onto the left, and then a nice cruise 360 to switch, trying to show that she has a little style down at the bottom.
I'll tweet out the video, but like I said, she's...
I think I saw this and I thought it was a joke. Is this the chick that was on skis and she was in the half pipe?
Yeah, she was in the half pipe, and it is a real event, but it's the same reason I could have skipped straight to varsity when I was in the 9th grade. Not a lot of competition in this field, and she gamed the system so that, I mean, she's American, and she skied for the Hungarian team.
I would marry this chick. I would marry this chick on the scam alone.
I'm telling you, man, like I said, I thought, I'm starting to be pessimistic, think that I can't achieve the dreams that I want to achieve. And if there's one thing that Elizabeth Swaney taught me by competing in an Olympic ski half-pipe event, it's that anything is possible if you're hungry enough.
Oh, my God. The story was so great, but you couldn't control it.
Yes, I did. You're right about possibly marrying this woman. She shows tenacity. She shows tremendous sense of humor. She's also like kind of easy on the eyes and super smart. She's 33 years old, graduate degree from Harvard University, and she's Hungary's first Olympic freestyle skier after qualifying through both the country's quota system and 13 career World Cup halfpipe contests. In those contests, she finished last or within a couple spots of last place, and for that, we thank her. Bravo.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio. Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So can you imagine you stump up cash to pay somebody to document one of the most important days of your life, i.e. your wedding? And the one thing that you learn after looking at the photographer's photos is that they're a giant perv that had an eye for your bridesmaid's naughty bits. This is a thing. Would you sue, Travis?
No, but I understand that people would, but I would laugh my butt off just because I get it, especially for chicks, because chicks really the wedding means so much to them. But this is just the funniest thing. I haven't even heard the story yet, but this is just hilarious.
I feel bad not this photographer, but I feel bad for photographers in general, because like when my sister got married, I was in there, taking pictures left and right with my phone. And like, I don't know this wedding photographer. I don't know if their work is good. I haven't seen any of it. But I wanted to make sure that I had enough pictures of my sister, her husband, me, my parents to satisfy me. Like, I know I can look at my phone and go, cool, captured the moments. Good. And if any others come out of this, that's a bonus. But I know I was constantly in the wedding photographer's way. And she was like, I'm going to have problems with you, right? I was like, making memories, capturing the memories.
I'm going to have problems with you, right?
Yeah. I was like, yep, probably. She'd be like, everybody line up for a picture. I'd be like, cool, hold on, selfie time, everybody crowd in. And she was like, this is really not helping me get to the reception quicker, dude. I was like, sorry, but I am capturing a magical moment. Although I didn't say selfie. As a self-respecting dude, I don't like to use the expression selfie.
You only prefer to use it on the radio when millions are listening? Is that it?
This is why I correct myself post haste. Capturing a moment. With a selfie? Nope. Capturing a moment with a picture of me, my sister, and her husband. The end.
That I'm taking by my selfie.
There is no... Yeah, this is an S word that I don't use.
It's funny.
Anywho, we'll talk about this... And by the way, the photographer for my sister's wedding did a bang-up job, and I really was in her way. But I still treasure the photos that I got with me, my sister, and her husband. It was
I think we need
stuff.
to bring her on the show, because I bet she has some stories about that wedding that she had to shoot that you were constantly in her way. I bet you're her nemesis, and she tells all her other clients about like this horrible guy.
I don't know if I'm her nemesis, but I think people like me are her nemesis. Like, oh, got the new iPhone. How many pixels? You're going to be a problem.
You're going to be a problem.
In the day of flip phones, this wasn't a thing. Now, everybody's an amateur freaking filmmaker. So there you go. But, it's funny. I went to another wedding this past summer just gone by, and they made the decision not to have a photographer.
Really?
They're like, you know what? Everybody takes so many photos, and we're just going to have them uploaded to this. And they made a beautiful book out of pictures that all their guests had taken. And I think they had one friend who was like kind of an amateur, semi-pro photographer, and he brought a real camera. But they got a beautiful book of a beautiful day, a beautiful book of photos of a beautiful day, just by relying on the pictures that, their friends, family, and loved ones were taking. And obviously they said, hey, this is what we're doing. We want to see our wedding through your eyes. So snap away whenever you want to. But, collect them all on this one folder. And they did. It worked out great. I couldn't.
That's pretty
fault
smart.
Their decision.
That's real smart.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It's, I guess it's a new version of, you remember like in the 90s, you used to go to weddings and there'd be disposable cameras on the table.
Yes.
And like, hey, take these. And everybody was like, sure, I'll take a picture at your wedding. Zip. Let me just get to the bathroom here.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. I knew you were gonna say, and then there was always a surprise, like how many naked pictures like showed up on the cameras.
Well, like, yeah, whose butt is this?
Oh my god!
The bass player in my old band used to do that. He used to go find people's cameras in their homes and their disposable cameras or whatever they had lying around, and he would go into their bathroom and. It's really not cool. It's not cool. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's a reprehensible behavior. But he would like stick their toothbrush in immensionable places and take a photo of it. And so, like,
God, I had this deal where if I was at somebody's house and like there was a bra in the bathroom, I'd put it on and like I would leave my shirt on, but I would put it on over like any underwear I found in the bathroom. I'd put it on over my clothes and take selfies. Like. I don't know why. It was hilarious. Like it was a phase, obviously. But it was it was a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie.
It was a phase. When did it end? Oh, late last week.
Yeah, last night. I'm never doing it again.
Until the next time. Oh, good. Well, we'll get into all that later after we tackle some desperately serious news. Travis, what's going on in the world?
There's a controversial new show on Netflix where they try to manipulate a man into actually committing murder.
What do they do? Do they lock him in a room with Fergie singing the national anthem over and over again?
That would be committing suicide.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be watching that. That sounds that involves probing areas of my mind that I don't wish to be probed. Go on.
Black China's lawyers called for swift action against whoever leaked her sex tape.
Oh, So expect them to file a 6-figure lawsuit against Black China. That's one of those things. It's like, note the sarcastic air quotes around the word leaked. If you, by leaked, mean released on the internet with the sole purpose of making money, then absolutely it was leaked. But although it might not have been Black China who leaked it, I don't know. Next.
Caitlyn Jenner still loves driving fast cars.
Okay.
You're not even tempted with that one, huh?
It's just so...
Come on.
Right, because the gear shift brings back memories.
Oh.
Go on.
Oh, wow. How do you go on? Drake gives away $1 million in his new video.
I'd like to think that if I had $1 million, as the Bare Naked Ladies say.
Great song.
Although I was never that impressed by that song because I kept reminding myself they were Canadian dollars. Like, I was like, it's not as big of a statement. I do like the song, but I was like, what is that? Like $700,000. Yeah. But Drake gives away millions of dollars in his new video. I'd like to think that I'd do the same if I had $1 million. I wouldn't, but I'd like to think that I would.
A North Korean speed skater crashed twice during a single race.
All part of a plan to spend the rest of his life toiling away in a Pyongyang labor camp. That's not a good look.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KBRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is.
The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
A little later on in the show, we will discuss the photographer who is in trouble for mostly taking pictures of bridesmaids' butts and boobs when hired to photo document a wedding. There's something very interesting about these pictures that I've noticed, and it was a dead giveaway to me of something, and I'll share that with you next. What did I learn by looking at these pictures of bridesmaids' boobs and butts? Surprisingly, a lot, and it made me feel like I have a special skill and talent for identifying a certain type of person, Travis. What am I talking about? It's intriguing, I know, and we'll get into all of this a little later on. Right now, though, let's get to what remains of the news.
Major League Baseball unveiled some new rules aimed at making the game shorter.
Yeah. None of them are as effective as mine, though. Basically, be a New York Mets fan and throw your phone through your television set around inning number 6.
Oh.
It's just, it was a frustrating season last year. What are these rules? I think what they're doing is they're limiting the number of trips that a coach can make to the mound. They were going to have, and I'm so glad they didn't wind up doing this, but they were going to have sort of like a pitch clock.
Yeah.
So you weren't allowed to sort of like, dude, if a pitch... Like I said, having thrown 5 pitches at a speed gun machine, at one of which broke 70 miles an hour at the All-Star Fan Fest, let me tell you, pitching is a precision art. You can't rush that. Actually, you know what's kind of fascinating? You know what the big abused drug is? The big abused performance enhancing drug in baseball is now?
The last I knew was HGH.
No. So, I mean, maybe that too for different positions, but apparently the performance enhancing drug, and it's a tough one to track because, I don't know if it's illegal because maybe you need this. Maybe this is a legitimate thing. Maybe you've been taking this stuff your whole life. Adderall.
Interesting. For ADD or ADHD or whatever?
Well, here's the thing. Adderall is one of the upshots of it, if you're the right type of person and you respond to it in the right sort of way, is it gives you sort of mental clarity and focus, and it's such a rigorous mental game. And you know what? Do you play poker at all, Travis?
I do. Actually, I love poker.
So it's, how you get to, it's late at night, you've been up, you've been down, you have a hand that you think is okay, but you're not entirely sure, and part of you just wants to quit, it becomes a game of mental endurance.
Yeah.
You could see how something that would give you energy and mental focus when you didn't usually have it would be useful in that situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So same deal with pitching. You get to inning number 5, you're, however many pitches in, say you're 50, 60 pitches in, and your mental focus starts to go. And that's such a big part of it. It's such a head game that the idea of, something that would give you extra clarity or a boost in clarity could be, a performance enhancing drug, which is why I think one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, but is actually happening in Major League Baseball, is abuse of Adderall. Here's the thing, a lot of people don't realize, I don't know when it was outlawed, but amphetamines were viewed as being perfectly acceptable to take, because you get no sleep, you fly across the country, you got to wake up in a different time zone and go perform as one of the highest paid athletes on the face of the planet, and you've had, like I said, no sleep. So amphetamines were a regular part of baseball back in the day.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That is insane.
And there is an amphetamine quality to, there's a zippy quality to Adderall for sure. So, it gives you that, and then the increased mental focus, and that is why it's viewed as a PED in baseball. And I think, I don't know how it's regulated. It's kind of an obscure one, but it's something that I think they're looking into more and more. It's like, okay, and if somebody knows more about this, I know quite a bit about baseball, and I'm kind of hazy on this one because I've just never really heard it talked about other than a few different people. But yeah, Adderall, the performance enhancing drug that is making its way into baseball, or already has made its way into baseball. But my point is that it's such a mental game that, putting a pitcher on a pitch clock, that's no good. I'm happy to sit there and wait. I do understand, though, I understand why people get bored with baseball. I hang on every last pitch when it's the New York Mets. It means so much to me. But if I'm watching a team that I don't have that emotional connection to, which is pretty much all of them except for maybe the Astros, I just can't. I can't bring myself to care about it, and my mind wanders. I don't really get involved unless it's a real humdinger of a game, and even then, I'm like, that's cool for someone, probably not me. But baseball is a slow-moving game. There's no two ways about it. I'm glad they're doing something to speed it up, but not limiting the amount of time a pitcher has to make his pitch. Go on.
Iceland may be the first European country to ban male circumcision.
It's a hot button issue. It's a delicate and sensitive subject.
Here we go.
Some of those in favor of the ban aren't in the mood to discuss the issue. Some of them take this really seriously for religious purposes. It's one of those issues that you have to approach carefully, with delicacy. Because the last thing you want in this situation, Travis, is for someone to get snippy with you.
I knew it was coming. I knew.
I don't know. I always you're brought up to believe that circumcision is a really good thing, and it makes cleaner and less likely to be disease-ridden, and not disease-ridden is unfair. It makes it there's a lot of positive rhetoric about the idea of circumcision that's floated around, and I had no idea that it could be a bad thing until somebody tipped me off.
Can we move on?
I think we'd better.
Or do you have more?
No. After that, I've got less.
Okay, that's enough. Oh my god. Okay. Temperatures could reach up to 80 degrees in Washington, D.C. today.
So hot that people are already forming a line to stand between Donald and Melania. I'm supposed to go to Las Vegas for a convention pretty soon, and it's going to be freaking freezing there. My buddy is meeting me at the convention. He was like, it's got to be warmer at home in Nashville, where I live, than in Las freaking Vegas. How is this possible? I was like, I don't care if it's 50 degrees. I'm still wearing shorts. That's what I do when we go to these things.
Oh, God, yes.
Anyways.
Yeah. I hate wearing pants.
Wow.
Yeah.
That becomes my sort of baseline for activities outside of the home. You want to go do this? Do I have to wear pants? Because if I do, the answer is definitely a no. But if I can wear shorts, I'm open to the discussion.
A friend of mine was like, "Hey, do you want to come to my work Christmas party?" I was like, no. I'm like, I don't have appropriate clothes. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I mean, I can wear like torn shorts and a t-shirt, or I can wear a suit. I mean, that's the two options. And she was like, oh, you'll be overdressed, but you can wear the suit. I mean, that's...
Lately, as a kid that, as a grown-up rather, that anytime I get dressed up, or if I'm in a suit or anything like that, it doesn't look right. I look like an 8th grader on picture day, like completely unnatural. Like I can't wait to like not be wearing the sport coat and the tie and anything with a collar. But I found that the go-to outfit that I found myself going to in these business casual situations where you don't want to be a jerk and show up in shorts when it's a big deal to somebody else that people are dressed nice. I have recently discovered the magic of a sweater. Now, I can only do this when I'm not in Texas. When I'm working in Texas, where Travis and I have spent good portions of our lives, the idea of wearing a sweater, doesn't matter what time of year it is unthinkable.
Oh,
it's just so humid in Texas. The idea of sweater is just an absolute no-no. But in other places, like when I'm in California where it gets really cold at night, especially during the winter, I was like, wow, I can look like an actual grown-up that looks as though they care by just throwing on a sweater with my... I know I'm not really doing myself any favors by revealing this about myself, but I found the magic of a sweater makes it look as though you care in these situations, Travis, when you do not. So I would invest in a very comfortable cotton thin light sweater that looks a little bit more put together than you actually feel like being, and that can solve these problems. Jeans and a sweater. You could even get away with wearing sneakers with that, and people will be like, oh, you look so nice.
Good tip.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Let's roll on.
The Trump administration wants to roll back the regulatory burden on private space projects.
So this basically means it's only a matter of time until your uncle gets government approval to launch himself into space in his 1969 Rambler. I like this idea. Like, why should space travel be government dominated? Did you hear the story about this guy? It was Minneapolis a couple weeks ago. This guy tried to launch himself off of his roof on his homemade rocket bicycle. 10 out of 10 for style and tenacity and all of the above. He had a homemade flying machine. He hurt himself horribly, but I admired his grit. I really did. And you know what? If we get more people trying to launch themselves off of roofs on rocket bikes into space, I think we're going to get somewhere quicker, and we'll also decrease, through Darwinism, portions of the population that are not necessarily integral.
Very nice.
That's what I think. How much time do we
About
do we have?
2.5 minutes. Should we get into that thing?
Yeah. So, Steph and Paul Unwin from Cheshire in England got married back in June of 2015, and they were excited when they got their wedding photos back until they looked through them. Their photographer, a guy called David Kilcourse, hadn't captured the key moments from the day. He didn't get any pictures of their parents. In fact, there were only 11 photos that even had the groom in them. Instead, he mostly photographed 2 of the bridesmaids' boobs and butts.
Oh my God.
And the insight I had into this couple, like, I looked at the article and I went straight to the link to the pictures of the boobs and butts,
of course.
For science. And I looked at the pictures and I was like, these people are English. I knew from looking at their butts that they were English. And you know what? They're freaking English.
Oh my God.
I could spot those. I could tell you the nationality of those butt cheeks at 50 paces. And I don't know why. I don't know how. But I looked at them, they're definitely English, and they were. Now, to be fair, like, there's a certain gray, dismal quality to the weather in the background of the photos that just looked like England. You know what I mean? And the fact that you could see somebody holding a cigarette while they're walking a bridesmaid down the aisle.
No. Hang on. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'll send you the photos. But
oh my God.
Anyways, so yeah, he mostly photographed 2 of the bridesmaids' boobs and butts. So back in 2016, they sued him, and they won an $800 settlement when he didn't show up in court. But now, Steph and Paul found out that David is still working as a wedding photographer, so they went public to try and save any other couples who might hire him and have him ruin their wedding photos as well. So yeah, be be on the lookout for rogue photographers. I actually kind of used to be around the wedding business a little bit, because when I DJ'd, I would DJ literally anything. Like anywhere I could show up and play music and get paid for it, I would do it. So like literally everything from the cheesiest weddings and bar mitzvahs in Long Island to some of the swankiest clubs in Manhattan. Didn't matter. I was out on a mission to get paid. And by the way, this was before the day of the mega DJ, when people could make millions upon millions of dollars doing this. And I went to myself, I know I'm doing pretty well. I know I'm throwing these big parties. I know I'm making big commission checks off of these venues when all these people show up. But this isn't a career. Being a DJ isn't a career. I'm instead going to go into radio. So I did. And then every person that I've been DJing with went on to charge about $500,000 a set, and I felt foolish as I was doing weekend overnights on Sirius XM Octane when I was confident no one was listening. Anyways, yeah, so don't hire this guy as your wedding photographer. It will end badly. That is all.